Hello and welcome to the Nmca Way, Michael Chekhov. And I am Lisa Dalton. I am the president and one of the co-founders of the National Michael Chekhov Association. And we have a very special program today. It is about the National Michael Chekhov Association and what is unique about our special way. And to take us further into that, my dear colleague, Will Kilroy.
Hi there, welcome. We're so happy you're joining us virtually here. And what we're going to do is go through a series of questions and just ask some of the participants from our intensives what they thought. And that'll provide you with some feedback if you're thinking of attending this program. So the first question is, what do you recall as the most outstanding feature of your NMCA training? And I'm just going to go around, and we just need little sound bites. But I'll go around with who I see first, and I see Jeffrey first. So what do you recall? What is the most outstanding feature that you recall about the program?
What has been most outstanding for me was the idea of triplicity, and that while we were learning something, we'd learn a new tool, improvise with it, and then bring it back to our scenes. And so that idea of triplicity really stuck with me, and it's what I now use in my classroom as well.
Excellent. And Joanne and Brad are next in line.
Okay, well, the thing that I liked the most, the thing that I took away from it was kind of a surprising sense of how strong I thought it worked for me, and how I didn't expect it to be such a sort of like, oh, that's exactly how I want to work. Not only how I can teach, but also how I want to work myself, which ultimately means, I think, that the way when I'm teaching, I'm actually teaching something that I feel very strongly because I do it myself, and I deploy myself, and it makes the teaching stronger because I have such a great, strong connection to it.
And for me, I think the most amazing thing about it is how organic it comes. It's a very organic process, and it really doesn't matter where you are and what techniques you have studied in the past. It is a really wonderful way of connecting what you know and the techniques that you know, and kind of adding another layer to all of those things. So it's open to people who have had little training or who have had a lot of training.
Excellent. And I'll move on to Kristen to answer that question.
All right. Well, I had been taught Michael Chekhov tools before going to, some of them, before going to NMCA, but I found that NMCA is more than just about learning tools. It provides an entire pedagogy that allows the artist to experience firsthand how Michael Chekhov's philosophies inform the tools, how the tools inform one another, and then how those tools and how the philosophies apply to our work in theater and film, as well as auditions and interviews, and even our lives.
Great. All right, Christy, an outstanding feature of the training?
An outstanding feature for me was the overall sense of play that came with every concept that we touched, every tool that we used. They were all fun to work with. The atmosphere was relaxed and easy and put everyone at ease, so that everything we did just was so enjoyable.
Great. How about Charlotte next?
What I recall most is something that I use, and I'm sorry Charlie's not here to see this because I know he was a big person, is my notebook. My notebook is out on my desk, and every time I have an opportunity to do a scene in a class or have an audition, I've got that notebook out. So that's, I mean, it's not that I just remember it, it lives with me all the time. And I mean, that notebook is just really something wonderful. It was a gift. So that's my best memory, other than exercising with Will. Sorry.
All right, how about Janine?
Hi. I think it's the greater sense of community really that has lasted with me. I really enjoy the colleagues that I met at the workshops. I really value the continuing mentoring that I've received from Lisa and Will, the connections I've made with the other artists at my workshop, and how those relationships have continued and have deepened. I feel like I have a whole network of artists from across the world who speak this language, who, if I have a challenge, I can reach out to them for help or assistance or affirmation or support. I really value that sense of community.
Great. All right, Paul, how about you?
The comprehensive curriculum is something that really stood out to me. That I left once I received the certificate. I felt I had an intellectual and an experiential experience, an understanding of the technique when I left, of each element of the Chekhov technique, which I think was absolutely wonderful. And I love the atmosphere that was created in the classroom. It was very supportive. It was very loving. It was very freeing. You felt very free to explore. There was, it was always like, there's nothing wrong here. It's just, it's a new place to explore. And finally, the instructors themselves. I think Lisa and Will, you're masters of this technique, and you're also, you know the art of teaching, and it's wonderful to be in the room with you.
Thank you. Jeff is next.
Well, I think for me, jumping off a little bit what Paul was saying is, at the beginning of the session of the week, you're presented with this large sign, chart for inspired acting. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, I'm going to get an introduction, a little introduction to each of these little things. And by the end of the week, you walk away not only with an introduction to it, but with a deep understanding of each of those concepts, which really surprised me. The efficiency at which you teach this, this technique is amazing.
Thank you. Suzanne.
For me, so many things, but I just love the concept of the psychophysical transformation. That idea that just by changing where one little thing energetically or physically in your body, suddenly your psychology shifts, and it's such a wonderful way to step into a character to try different things out. So I love that. I also really like the idea of finding the beauty in the problem. For me, that's something no matter what situation you're in, that is advantageous to find that beauty and then deal with it in the way that you deal with something beautiful as opposed to something ugly. So I like those things.
Terrific. How about Susan?
An outstanding component, because there's so many, but the one that just blew my mind was synth analysis and directing. I came to this never having directed before, and I have left being absolutely confident that I could direct anything. You know, maybe not brilliantly, but I would know how to go through the process and be so creative applying all of these tools. So that's an outstanding thing.
Excellent. How about Paul H?
Something that's introduced in the very first half hour of the intensive is this concept of it's all perfect. And I think I remember day one chucking that ball around and having to force myself to say it's perfect because I thought it was so silly. And I thought, and I found all this resistance coming up. And by the end of it, I had totally taken it on, and it influenced all of the work. And everything that I do and teach now starts with that concept of it's all perfect. And I've gotten nothing but amazing feedback from students at the end of the semester saying, oh my God, you gave us permission right off the bat to allow everything that we're doing to just be perfect. And it's something that I think it maybe is one of the most important acting tools to just kind of start with. But that combined with the entire, and this was mentioned before, but the entire pedagogy of the system is remarkably structured and whole and complete in a way that is so satisfying. But I think it takes a year or two to kind of get to that part of being with it and spending some time with it.
All right. Is there one outstanding moment, experience, exercise that you have a vivid memory of that you want to share from the experience of the intensive?
One particular exercise that has stayed with me was drawing out our imaginary bodies. When I was working on Algernon, the idea of most of his body being all of these tangles of roses, and it gave me this image of withering when he wasn't in power and blooming and blossoming whenever he felt very powerful. And it opened that character up for me with just the image of the roses. And so it was it was drawing that imaginary body that really gave that image to me.
Terrific. Joanne and Brad, anything that stood out for you? A specific exercise?
A specific exercise that definitely that I connected with a lot and that I found very rich from the very first moment, and still find it rich, is centers. The idea that there's a single position somewhere inside of my body from which all movement, it's the IAC, but then I can take that and I can move it where I want. I can place it in whatever center I want.
Terrific.
And for me, I'm going to cheat. There's kind of two. The first one is always a sense of ease. I think that is just so important even when you're watching. I'm a director, so really trying to get to that place of ease in the work, also within the work as well. And definitely being the veiling. It's something that I've used before, but I really like how it is re-explained with the Michael Chekhov technique, and being able to communicate that for actors, how they can really take a movement and maintain the energy, but veil it at different sizes in different directions.
Okay, Kristen.
Yes, the audition and interviewing portion of the workshop was so helpful for me. Like many actors, I would get very nervous before auditioning and worried about doing it right and worried about them liking me. And the entire portion, that portion of the workshop really opened my mind and myself into different ideas about auditioning and how the tools apply to auditions. Also, definitely the synth analysis and the directing. Before this workshop, I could never see myself as a director. It was so nerve-wracking. But being put through the directing process that's attached to the synth analysis, I feel confident enough for directing the play that I'm supposed to be directing this spring. We'll see what happens. But I'm leaving with this wonderful toolkit for directing a show.
Thank you. Christy.
It was the imaginary body exercise where, Will, you gave us a piece of paper that had a person, character, object on it to embody. And we couldn't show our papers until the very end. And we all walked around and interacted and inhabited these imaginary bodies. And then we came back into the circle and we had to, on the spot, like introduce ourselves and tell our favorite thing and what our pet peeve or what we'd spend $1 million on or something. And I had so much fun doing that. I bring that into my acting classes all the time. And last semester, my students wouldn't give up those characters, and they spent the rest of the semester using that character whenever they were not supposed to be performing in a different scene.
That's great. Charlotte, how about you? One specific detail you remember?
Silence as a tool. That because in other coaching, everything was in your head, it was in your mouth. And when we lined up and communicated without speaking, and under the direction of Lisa and Real, the way that exercise was, I remember the surprise that my partner and I had, that we had actually communicated without saying a word. And so that taught me to listen more, not only communicating without speaking, but listening. that listening skill. So that's the one I always remember. So thank you.
Okay, Janine.
I found the expansion contraction exercise very powerful. For me, when you talked about contracting and contracting your heart, for me that triggered all sorts of emotional responses that really surprised me. And then as part of the exercise, we were applying it, and these characters needed something. And Paul Baywick's character needed a hug, and he gave me a big hug, which was something that I really needed in that particular moment, which also ties into how much I enjoy the community of this. But that was a very powerful moment for me.
Terrific. And Paul B.
Atmospheres and qualities. It just, walking through that space and entering into those atmospheres, I was just amazed at how much it could influence how I felt, everything about what I did when I moved, and adding a quality to it. I was amazed at how quickly I felt an emotion, how many different feelings I had and responses I had. Powerful tools that I hadn't really fully explored before, and it was a nice awakening moment.
Okay, Jeff, something specific for you that stood out?
Well, I guess my first experience with NMCA was 12 years ago, and and still today, there is not even one exercise that I can't say hasn't affected me or informed me as a teacher, or I haven't stolen completely for my class. I'm sitting here looking at, I still have this paper, TFW, the Trinity of Psychology. It's hanging over my desk. I still use the ball toss every time I start a class with the feeling of perfection. Everything is perfect. It has all those, I mean, I'm sorry, but I can't give you a specific answer because all of it was so important to me.
Great. Suzanne, how about you?
Yeah, I have that same reaction where I'm going to speak from a teaching perspective of things that I feel my students have really responded to. There are so many, but one that's been really fun is the ideal universal self. So taking them through that exercise, and I usually approach it starting with that, like the radiation and walking around the room as you had us do, and then finding that way to connect this like more fully energized self that is the new neutral. So I found with a lot of my students when we were working on moment to moment work and coming at it from a place of neutrality, there wasn't much there. And so then when we would do this exercise, suddenly they were more alive and more reactionary and able to radiate and receive so much more fully. So that's been amazing. And then teaching a lot of on camera, using Lisa's example of the over the top and like finding it like that it's really up because you're not in your body and grounding. And so that brings that camera work really into it, like allowing that physical work to really be effective on camera as well, has been wonderful for the on camera work. So those are things I use a lot.
Terrific. Susan.
This is going right off of Suzanne, and that when I was introduced to the idea of veiling or unveiling, it just blew my mind. And that could allow me to get rid of this word called overacting. And that when I'm teaching voice, I want my students to have their voice reflective of their inner impulses. And so by having them unveil their physical gestures of physical self and then veil it, their voice is still maintaining the ginormous energy that's coming out of them. So that concept has been, it's been amazing.
All right, Paul H., something specific you remember?
Yes, all of those things that were previously mentioned. Ease for sure, atmospheres for sure, imaginary body for sure. And I'll just add one that resonated, particularly the first experience of it with me from the first intensive, was the feeling of beauty. And pushing past that point of spending time with a chair that I'd never really given much consideration to. And after pushing past the point, falling in love with this object, this chair, developing a very strong connection and relationship to it. And what was cool is as I taught that for the first time, I watched other people then experience that and go through that same transformation, which then, of course, means that we can do this anytime, anywhere, with anything or anyone. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's too loud. We'll go back to the ball here. So the feeling of the beauty and the exercise that went along with it too, the puppeteering exercise, that giving yourself over to being manipulated and allowing yourself to experience the beauty in that, it was really powerful.
All right, and obviously for any of these, if you want to pass, just wave on, you can pass. But this next one, you get to choose a category, or you could try to answer all of them. But how has NMCA influenced your life either as an artist, an actor, a director, or even just as a human? So you could answer any of that. We've heard some answers about that already, so if you feel like you've sort of answered it, that's okay too. But I'll start with Jeffrey if you have something to add along those lines.
So the approach has helped me to name some of the things that we as artists look at as very woo-woo or very very feeling or ethereal. Those feelings that we're left with after we leave a really great production, they have names for me now. I can give this to my students, and I can give this to my audience, because now I understand it is the atmosphere that stays with them, or it is this, it is that stays with people as they are leaving. And so it's been being able to give names to those incredible feelings that I've had as an artist for so long in such a holistic and positive way. That's what stays with me.
Joanne and Brad.
I agree that baptizing is something that's stayed with me, but the largest thing I think is the notion, is the feeling of ease, the idea of it just being that it's not supposed to be a strain, that it's supposed to be something that I do fluidly and easily, and that's the way I want. And I think that this sort of very open-mindedness of the technique, and the way that the technique is kind of oriented toward, explore within yourself and find what you think works well, it just bespeaks the notion of it's just inside of just the way to teach it, as well as the techniques, this notion that it's all good, it's all easy, it's all going to be fine, just go with it. And that's certainly, it's very, very strong.
Yeah, I think also organic specificity. I think that all the time actors are looking to repeat or do it right, and they're caught up in that world of, did I do it this way the last time, and how am I going to do it again the next time, and how can I find that organic specificity in the work, and giving it language and giving it permission, I think is really important. I think it's a joy, I think, when I'm working with actors to be able to give them the tools to say, okay, now you know exactly with your mind, with your psychophysical body, what you've done, and it's your muscle memory that you're working with. I think that has been the biggest tool with actors. It really frees them from trying to get it right.
Hey, Kristen.
I'm right there with Joanne and Brad. Beauty and ease, working with ease. I tended to be more so before NMCA, very self-critical of what I was doing and perfecting something and making sure it was right and worried about it being wrong. And working with that beauty and the ease and an entirety and form has really helped create for myself a way of working that's more productive and more rewarding, and brings about, I believe, better choices overall for me as an artist, as a teacher, and as a human being.
Okay, Christy.
The training has really helped me as a director, specifically in communicating with design and production teams, and helping articulate my vision, or why I feel strongly about the way something speaks to me in a play, specifically understanding psychology of the stage, which sort of felt intuitive, but I didn't have the words for it before to help communicate why I thought things looked the way they did in my head. And so that's been an incredibly useful tool.
Hey, Charlotte.
I've always been a very sedentary person, and telling a story was going to the library and just talking. And so the thing that this taught me the whole week, well, I went twice, I didn't, was that our lives, that we tell a story with our whole body. And so the radiating, all of the movement that I learned there, and saw in person how Chekhov taught that movement and how you could change your character just by how you moved. So that has affected my acting, certainly, and my storytelling, and I'm very grateful for that, to learn to use my whole body and not just the mouth. So thank you for that, making me move.
All right, Janine.
I think that I am intuitively an artist who goes to imagination first rather than reality. And this technique gave me permission to do that, and reaffirmed that that is okay. That is okay for me to start there and to go there and be more comfortable with that. But it also helped me realize, though, that not everyone is the same. And so it helped me understand my students then, which is some of my students who really want to start and live in reality first, and others who are more comfortable with starting in the world of imagination. So I'm really grateful for this helping me to understand that about myself as an artist.
Paul B.
Janine said it perfectly. That's, yeah, the power of the imagination. After 15 years of being an actor that utilizes Stanislavski and Meisner and a lot of analysis, the Chekhov technique put me back in the sandbox like I was a child again, and it reignited my imagination in a way that I hadn't experienced it for a long time. And anybody that can do this, come to and explore this with you two, it will be a gift in itself. So just becoming a child again, allowing myself, to really imagine, and the power of the creative spirit, and have fun and just create, it really freed me. And so it informs all of my instruction now. I still teach, Meisner, I still teach Stanislavski, and then I teach Chekhov. And like Janine said, it gives each student a different way in, or a different way to another exploration, another crayon, another way to explore, which I think they need all those things because they're not all the same.
Okay, Jeff.
I think for me, as an actor and as a director, it has helped me let go of the cliche of the character and helped me to find the honest truth in my acting and in my directing, which I very much appreciated.
Okay, Suzanne.
One thing is that the focal points, for me, I think as a human and as an actor have been very valuable. I think there's a lot of pressure that I put on myself, and the last couple of years have been a little rough sometimes. So I think having that, not only, having the permission to sometimes put your focus where it needs to be, even if it's not something that is progressing the career or whatever, that figuring out, it has helped me to figure out where perhaps my focus should be going, and to be less self-judgmental about that focus going in that place, which I think leads to almost the first thing I was going to say before I thought of focal point suddenly, was that the community, the Michael Chekhov community, supports this type of human being and artist I want to be. And so I find that one thing that's been really lovely is just getting the exposure to other human beings who I can be inspired by, and want to be more like, and also feel very happy to have in my life and in my community. So those have been some really big deals for me just as a human.
Great. Susan.
Chekhov's mission statement to create happier human beings is enforced through the entire training process, to remember that we're here for fun, for joy. So that has helped me to stop taking myself so seriously, especially as a teacher, which allows me just to be present with my students more often. And then that in turn helps me as a human because I'm healthier and happier there. And then my human is informing my artistry. So that's what's helped me.
Okay, Paul H.
Yes, it has influenced and informed all of the categories mentioned: human being, teacher, artist, hopefully director at some point soon if we can ever get out of this pandemic. But yeah, particularly the Four Brothers, is just a really wonderful thing that I've used, especially in teaching. And one very, very quick example of a tangible result of the feeling of ease. When I started teaching, would go home at the end of the day with just this whole part of my body seized up and sore. And I think I've gone a whole year now with very little aches and pains up there. And I think a lot of that has to do with bringing in the feeling of ease into teaching mindfully and consciously when I go into it. And as a result, it opens up inspiration, play, and it creates that atmosphere for students as well.
One of the things that we've all talked about, but really getting the actor out of their head and into their body. A lot of pedagogy that is taught is very psychological and very intellectual. But I think the greatest thing about this is that it's still psychological, it's still intellectual, but it is also physical. And that, I think, is the difference between the thinking actor and the actor that is just understanding their presence and their energy on stage. And this technique is so brilliant to be able to do that.
Hold on just a sec. I would say, I mean, Joanne and I both happen to have a lot of experience with various physical forms of theater.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I like the most about Chekhov technique, I mean, having studied Grotowski and plastiques or whatever, that, I mean, I liked a non-realistic way of working, but I was frequently unable to talk about it when I was trying to direct it or when I was trying to teach it in a way that was that could at the same time allow me to connect it back to something that was, roughly speaking, recognizable psychology that the person that I was working with could understand and implement and utilize. And I found that particularly rich, that the way that I wanted to work was suddenly something that I could actually teach, and in a way that I wasn't able to before, unless you went through some sort of grueling plastiques or Odentheatret kind of experience, and that was really, really freeing and wonderful.
I'm curious for anyone, if you feel this training changed your employment somehow, led to a certain job, anybody have a story about that?
Absolutely. I cannot tell you how much the training has impacted my interviews for universities, for appointments at universities. My ability to maintain, to develop and maintain confidence during these interviews, to maintain that self-love and grace over the course of those interviews, and it really gave me the confidence going in, knowing that if I do this gesture before I go in for this interview, if I put my hands over my head, and if I can maintain that feeling in my body, that I can provide a gift for the person on the other side of the computer, which is they want to see me confident. They want to see us at our best. And so I definitely believe wholeheartedly that I was able to get to the final interviews at several universities because of this training.
Kristen, would you share the outcome of your interview series with us?
Oh, yes, I have an appointment starting this fall. I do. It's assistant professor appointment in Florida.
Great.
Hey, I'll be near Susan.
You are one of the lucky few who have got an appointment this year. That's really incredible.
I believe I was the last person hired before the freeze, maybe definitely for the department, maybe for the whole school.
Can I ask?
Congratulations.
Can I ask what school that is?
Florida Gulf Coast University in Fort Myers, Florida.
I feel really accomplished putting that in my application for my tenure. So I just submitted my tenure packet the other day, and that feels so fabulous to have this listed, that I have continued to stay current in my training as a teacher and to become a part of this community. So I'm going to say it's going to get me tenure. Let's see if that's true.
So, Susan, how did you get to the school where you're going to get tenure?
Oh, yes, that was it. So I actually had interviewed for 2 jobs prior to coming to the University of Florida, and I didn't get the gig because they said, oh, no directing, or at least that was, I surmised that. Probably was other things too. But so I thought, oh my gosh, I need to learn how to do this thing. And it was a recommendation, word of mouth, that this existed. And I came to Florida for the winter intensive at the University of Florida. And while I was there, a couple of students and a teacher who was formerly here, they liked me. And so they gave me the heads up when a position opened up. So yes, this gave me employment directly. I got the job because I was here. The intensive. So yes.
Well, I think what we've learned about through directing through the workshops helped me a lot when I first got my a position to associate direct, which is like second director at AMDA. I implemented a lot of those things, and then the next semester and every semester since, I've had a directing position, and I really think that it's because I feel very confident in that. But I was based on how long I'd been there, no one had been given a solo directing position, having taught that little time there before. So I felt really excited about that. And then one thing that happened this semester, which was about kind of finding the beauty in the problem, is when everything shut down, they kept the production I was directing on this semester was more of a showcase. So they kept only 2 productions going, and we did the whole thing via Zoom, but I was able to find the beauty in the problem and direct. What I ended up being really proud of was this remote recording of the end. We directed via Zoom, but filmed it with their cameras, edited it, did some post on it, and created this showcase for the students that I think they can be really proud of. So that I don't know, I feel like that would not have happened if it weren't for this program. So that's been cool. And then teaching workshops is awesome. So I love it.
All right, I'll move on to my next question. This might just be a quick yes or no. Do you feel that attending just one of these NMCA intensives gave you enough information that you could then go away and teach and or use the material as an actor or director?
Yes, I would say absolutely. Leaving the very first time, I applied this not just to my teaching, but immediately into my directing. Not just psychology of the stage, but the Japanese rock garden, and the feeling of ease in doing all of it was so crucial in getting me through the next year of teaching, directing, balancing all of those things together as well.
Yes, I think it was useful right away. I don't think I felt like I could teach it right away because it sort of like opened up the first session opened up a world of possibility that I really was excited about exploring further. And I went right into another CTI really fast thereafter because I wanted a deep dive, I guess you'd say. But I definitely felt sort of deeply influenced immediately, and it was certainly something that probably influenced the way that I taught. Although the specific techniques, I was probably kind of like, I need to know it better, you know.
I just like first week, it was awesome. I was like calling my grandma, you know, I was so excited by what by what it offered. And again, in my case, you know, in most people's cases, being a director, being a teacher, you already have, you know, the stuff you work with. So yes, that first week you leave with, you're surprised with how much you leave with, and you're excited to get to know more.
Yes, short answer, yes. I definitely left with a lot of tools for teaching in the classroom. I think the second intensive was where I really could polish the skills and really understand more deeply what these tools and techniques were. I also found that by the second intensive, I really understood a better way for teaching the tools. I really had them more in my body, in my psyche. and was even more prepared to teach them. But definitely one intensive is enough to take with you as an actor and as an instructor.
Yes, 100%. I could go back and incorporate a lot of the tools and training into my classroom and into my own practice. The second time I went, it gave me a confidence boost that I was owning a lot more of the material than I gave myself credit for the first time. And I was like, oh, maybe I don't remember it right, or I think this is how it went. And then the second time I saw it, I was like, oh, no, yeah, I got it, yes. So the second time was totally worth it to boost my own confidence, but it was 100% applicable after round one.
Boy, I feel like I'm in rare company here with all of these teachers. I have to say, I was in both of those classes with Christy. And Christy, the first was, you were awesome. When you came back, it was even more awesome to watch you. So yes, one was wonderful. What I learned, I mean, everybody learns differently. One that week just encouraged me that I wanted to learn more. I think in 1 week, learning from all the other people was really, somebody said something about watching somebody else interact with that chair. So that first week was so just eye-opening to what I could learn, and watching the other people, because I was in 2 classes with Christy, I just learned so much from how the other people absorbed everything. So I would say, yes, 1's enough, but 2 opened, it just solidified everything in me and has helped me so much in acting. So I just, the answer is yes, but you're going to want more. That's what I say. Thank you.
The first intensive to be helpful, and I was able to apply it immediately to my work, but it is well named intensive for a reason. It's an intense experience, and it is jam-packed with wonderful information, and I really appreciated that. I really appreciated that my time was well spent, and there was no twiddling your thumbs. It was rich. So the first week was very rich, and I needed the second time to live in it and say, okay, now I understand. And now I understand, because there's just so much information in that week. And when I was doing that week at the University of Florida, one of the faculty members there said to his graduate students, he says, pay attention, because you're going to get more out of this week than you'll get out of a semester in grad school. And he was exactly right, that it's intense and it's rich. But I also feel like you could do that same week 10 times and get something new out of it every single time. So I need a Chekhov checkup. So I'm looking forward to going back and doing another intensive, because it's just so rich and wonderful.
And I think we have had one participant that did it about 10 times. So she kept coming back and getting more. So it has happened. Paul B.
Everything that Janine just said, plus 6 years after I received my certification, I did return to a winter intensive in Florida, and it just deepened my understanding and of the technique. And I would encourage all of you here to go back after 5-6 years and go do it again. It was very rewarding for me.
The answer is yes. My head was completely full at the end of that first week, but when I went back the next year, I was surprised by how much I had forgotten. And so I knew so much, and yet I could learn so much more.
So when I went for the first week, I had some Chekhov, not through an Nmca, but in grad school. And then also Christy and I teach together at workshop intensives, and she'd done it. She was a year ahead of me, so she'd already done it for a year, and so had shared a lot with me. That being so I felt like after that first time, that's when I taught my first Chekhov intensive. And so I understood a lot of it, but it was still the second time coming back where I was having a little more time to take more detailed notes, or say, oh yeah, that's what that was. Like I was catching the things I'd missed, because as you said, Janine, it is so intense. So I think that the second time was really valuable in just, I guess, solidifying some things for me, or catching those little bits that I had missed, or the examples that either Lisa or Will or Charlie would use to I don't know, to make it more clear, to illustrate a tool more effectively. So that was really important, and I would love to go back again. I had been planning on going back again, because I never feel like I know enough. That's a thing. I've never. So it's like I just want to keep going and going until I could just basically recite the entire pedagogy. But that's me. But I loved it, and I did get a lot out of that first time.
Yeah, one is all you need, but yeah, you'll become a junkie. It's true. One is all you need, and I really believe that because of the playbook that you get along with the intensive, that you get to experience it, you know. But even with your note taking, I think the playbook offers such a depth of, again, the application of the tools and why and how. In my experience, I had done Chekhov work in grad school and then outside of grad school as well. But this particular program is what absolutely organized, and again gave me a process of how to use Chekhov. So yeah.
So I'm going to echo something that I heard from almost everyone, and there were the words yes, but. And I think that kind of sums it up for me. Yes, you could totally go for an intensive, get a great amount out of it. I think I went right into performing a show afterwards and used 3 of the tools and creating the character. It was wonderful and awesome. Could I have then gone off and taught all of this? Yes, I could have, but coming back and doing it a second time, the way I see it, as the first time, you can never really, my view of teaching is that you can't teach anything that you haven't gone through the whole experience and immersed yourself in yourself. And so the first time was a complete immersion. The second time was like an out-of-body experience of being able to observe how all of the pieces work and how it's all connected. And that's what then I think solidified for me as a teacher and gave me the confidence to see all of the components to it, and then how I could fully bring all of that into the classroom.
Okay, so some of you have sort of answered this already, but I'm curious, if you have had some Michael Chekhov training in the past, what surprised you or was new or different about the NMCA approach? So I'll let you wave to me again if you have an answer to that. Some of you already talked about it a little bit, but anybody else? Jeff has some more to say?
Yeah, I had studied Chekhov in grad school, and I was surprised by the chart for inspired acting. And I've spoken with some of my peers who also felt like in grad school, we got a smattering of it, but we didn't really see the whole picture until I took the intensive with NMCA. So I really appreciate you for that.
I also studied it in grad school, and this was more fun. in grad school, you know, there's like, oh, the pressure of the grade, and you're studious, and you know, the blah, blah, blah that goes with being a grad student. But this was just freeing and fun, and I just wanted to play, and it was allowing me to play, and it was so lovely.
Yeah, I'd like to add that, yes, it's the connection of how one tool adds up to another. In addition to that, it was the connection to the legacy and the history that I learned behind this technique that when I was in grad school, I didn't get. So that is invaluable.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's why is it important now? You guys talk about that on the afternoon of the first day. Why Chekhov now? I think that was really important, and we didn't. And it gave it that lineage, and it connected it to the energy, and why that's such an important tool right now. And I think that I think it was I can't remember who said this, but that. Oh no! I remember when Christy left for the first time, and she's like, "They actually teach you how to teach it. Like they give you like they." I was like, "Wait, what?" She's like, "Yeah, no, they show you how to lead the lessons." I was like, "Oh, sign me up." So I think putting it together like that is really awesome, and I didn't feel that I had that understanding of how to even flow from one thing to the next to build like stack it and build the understanding. So that was really helpful.
Yes, I was fortunate. My first introduction to Chekhov was, I didn't know, but it was a certified Chekhov teacher. And I met her in a junior college because somebody said, well, you want to learn how to act, you need to go see Gail Cronauer. I'm sorry, she's not here today. I mean, and we learned how to use our body. We did all these exercises. So it was Gail who encouraged me to meet Lisa and to go to an intensive so that I could really understand the process, like you've said, and to put it all together. So all of you teachers, the influence that you have on people is just phenomenal. And I'm just so happy to know that all of you are sharing that and that you got it from what I consider the experts. So yes, my first experience was wonderful. And so you teachers, it's just such a good influence that you have. That you have this opportunity to influence people, not only in acting, but as everybody said, how it changes our lives to express ourselves better. Thank you.
What would you say to someone who is considering taking one of these NMCA intensives, maybe isn't sure about it? Is there any advice you would give, anything you would say to them?
Okay, well, I have studied Michael Chekhov specifically with literally dozens of teachers, and I can say wholeheartedly that there is no organization that has a cleaner, more efficient, more comprehensive pedagogy than National Michael Chekhov Association. So go ahead and do it early and often.
Yes, you should do this. It is well worth your time and well worth the money. And bring your colleague with you, somebody you teach with, or bring a fellow actor friend, because one, it's a good time. But my colleagues that I teach with at my university, and those that are my friends and my colleagues, specifically Suzanne and Paul and I have worked together quite a bit. Having this common shared language to talk about the work is so useful and so beneficial. And like many have said, it's just such a lovely community to join. So don't think twice.
If you're seeking transformation in your work as an actor, as a teacher, or transformation in your life, and you are interested and curious and excited about inviting more ease and beauty and joy and fun into it, then the answer should be yes, just do it.
Oh, yes. I think if you're on the fence and you're considering this training, I would absolutely encourage you to do it. I feel like this work will support any training you've had already and will enrich it. I don't think it negates any of the other systems and approaches out there. I think it also just gives you a really rich, wonderful toolbox of tools that you can apply to a number of different acting challenges. And why say no to a rich toolbox of tools?
Michael Chekhov is a creative genius. His approach is, you need to experience it if you haven't. And the teachers in this program are master teachers, and it's a very comprehensive program. So yes, 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 it will change your life.
Should I do it? Do it.
Okay, do it. Just do it.
I think it's very few times when you have such generous teachers and such really to learn from people who are very steeped in the knowledge and are generous about it, because sometimes you work with teachers where they keep all the information very close to them and it's all very proprietary. And this is a very generous way to teach actors, to teach directors, to teach teachers. And I think that the humanity and the depth of knowledge by the both of you is that's, you know, it's the best thing. I really appreciate it so much.
I think there's another thing something that, I mean, if somebody were to say to me, should I do it? that the gesture, the notion, what they're saying is sort of saying, I mean, ultimately, should I explore this? And I think what I would say is, it's a technique that's about exploration. It's an exploration in and of itself. And so that's exactly the sensibility that you should have walking into it. I want to explore this because that's exactly what it's going to amplify. And it's just a very positive way to enter into the experience, because the experience is going to underscore the mindset that you already have.
So I would say, as a teacher, that if you want to do the teacher track, you should absolutely attempt to room with the other teachers, or at least one or two of them, because especially the second time that I went, living with Kristen and then living with two first-time attendees who are on the teacher track, it is very intense throughout the day. And then having the chance to decompress with somebody who knows exactly how intense it was with you at wherever you're staying is really, it's a powerful way to continue that education and to continue that feeling of lineage as well, in a really beautiful community. That, and take copious notes. Take so many notes, and take notes about how you feel in doing things, because that will remind you of what was happening. Is that when I was really confused by, or, oh no, that was when we did and I felt really great about, you felt kind of, it's a really good idea. Take copious notes.
Take notes. And when you're done taking notes, take more notes. On breaks, look at your notes. Then at the end of the night, sit down with the people you're living with, and hopefully you have the wonderful opportunity of living with other people that are taking the intensive. Share your notes. Michael Chekhov is all about sharing. The pedagogy is about sharing. It's not about secrets. There are no secrets to this. We're not being given fish. We're being taught how to fish. And I think that the more you can share notes with one another and bounce those ideas off each other while they're still fresh, the more you're going to leave with at the end of the intensive. The other thing I would say, before going to a second intensive, so if you're on a teacher training track or a directing track or whatnot, read the workbook. I can't tell you more how much reading that workbook before my next intensive really enhanced my learning outcomes. Also, memorizing the shorthands for the terminology, IAC, all of those really SART, SART, everything that you can learn when it comes to the shorthand, because the shorthand will be used as well. And it really helps maximize that the learning in the next session. So take notes. When you're done, take more notes, and then share those, radiate those, and receive those notes.
If somebody says, should I go do this? I would say, well, what do you want? Do you want to be a better teacher? Do you want to be a better actor? Do you want to be a better director? Then I would say, yes, you need to go do this, because it's, somebody else said it's well worth your time and your energy and your effort. So the answer is yes, go do it.
Second, what Christy said about bringing someone with you, I mean, you don't have to, but it does make it, or just really finding a way to bond with the person you're staying with. But that was invaluable in the evenings to talk over what had happened. And then, Christy and I teach together a lot. We just got off of a class half an hour before this started via Zoom. And it's such a great shorthand for creating lesson plans or like just for everything. So it's really nice. It is a wonderful community. You'll find your people if you don't bring them. But I think that was really lovely. And then for myself, like when my seniors are graduating, they often ask that question, like, where should I go next? And so, and I very often recommend Michael Chekhov, especially if they're having any sort of perfect student syndrome of like, there's only one way to do it. I have to be right. It's so freeing. But then my recommendation for anyone going in would be, first of all, get a lot of sleep before you come because it's exhausting, and get sleep at night. That first night, don't stay up too late. But then just be ready to just jump in, come with a beginner's mind, jump in, be ready to play, let go of any idea of what's silly and what's not. So that would be my recommendation for anyone going in, is just go in and just jump right in with both feet, and don't worry about like what it looks like, and just get everything you can out of it.
Yes, I would like to say just do it. Recommendation is bring snacks.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, the NMCA has the oldest teacher certification track globally, and it is also the most rigorous, in as much as it is the only one that requires an in-depth master's thesis level capstone project, and completion of the project in itself, along with 2 sessions, does not actually guarantee you a certificate. And so over the multitude of years that the NMCA has been offering certifications, there are very few people who are successful in fully fleshing out and completing the full extent of this rigorous certification track. And today, we are so excited and honored to celebrate actually 4 people who are getting their certification today.
Are they brothers?
Yeah, they are 4 brothers and sisters. And I can say, I mean, I guess our average is about 1 certification a year, maybe 1.5. And so we are going to begin with, I'm going to put a little spotlight on Christy Maturo. Christy, yay.
Thank you.
We're just so excited. I'm going to attempt to do a little screen share here. Christy, we are so proud of the work that you have done, and the model that you have created, the spirit of sharing the wealth, bringing people along, and being a leader and a supporter of the work, and watching your videos, watching your presentation, and noting just the phenomenal creativity that you shared. We are so honored, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. The honor is mine to join the fellow teachers. Thank you.
Unmute and let's applaud Chris. So our next person is Miss Susan Schuld. So hello, Susan.
Hey, yeah.
It's extraordinary to that you had the courage to direct. Yeah. And so for those of you who don't know, when Susan asked me what she should do for her project, and she's a master voice teacher, and she could have done something in this area, and when I discovered that she hadn't directed, I sort of threw the gauntlet at her feet, and she upped it. Yeah. And what was a phenomenally moving play, and during which she ran into phenomenal physical challenges, losing her space, and being displaced for rehearsals and for performance, and finding the path to turn crummy into yummy.
Yes.
Crummy into yummy. That's the new way of saying falling in love with the problem.
Yeah.
And so just a beautiful expression.
Yeah, that rocks. That is awesome.
Yay!
Yay. Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Paul Hurley. Paul Hurley, Daddy here. Well, Paul was, during his process, you can see he was undergoing quite a bit in his own life. And so we're really happy that, I'm really happy he got this finished now that he's got the daddy tasks in addition to the hubby and the teacher and the life processes. So Paul uptook the task of creating a special workshop in order to be able to tape it, and his beautiful wife actually did a great job of documenting it with him. I was saying that I hoped her witnessing him teaching in such a beautiful way would somehow be a nice bonding for them, because very often our partners don't actually understand what we're doing and why we love it so much, especially when it takes us away from each other. So I hope that all the human part of the work will continue to support you, and it's so evident from your students' responses and from the excellent documentation and everything and planning. And I also was saying I could read Paul's teaching notes to prepare myself to teach the next intensive because he captured so much. So just a big celebration for Paul here. And now we'll
Yeah.
Thank you.
And finally, our dear Jeffrey Arndt. Jeffrey, amazing job that you did on directing The Never-Ending Story, and your impact with this school. Jeffrey works at a school, it's an all-boys parochial school, and high school, and what he created and guided and inspired these young people to craft in terms of the powerful atmospheres and the very, very full-bodied performances and the enthusiasm and understanding that these kids have. I mean, we are so lucky to have you in our in our team. And I think in the Miss America contest, they I don't know if they still have it. They had the Congeniality Award, and I think Jeffrey, the support and guidance that you always give your colleagues, might get you a nomination at least for Mr. Congeniality. So that is so appreciated. And I just kicked that over to you today with an invitation to connect with another certified teacher. So Jeffrey, congratulations.
I definitely accept the Congeniality. Thank you.
He's also a great roommate.
So, ladies and gentlemen, when you are a certified teacher, your title is National Michael Chekhov Association Certified Teacher. When you are a candidate, you just add candidate to that. So if you have had candidate on your documents, just erase it, okay? Because you are now a fully certified National Michael Chekhov Association teacher. And we are so honored at the phenomenal work. And in some cases, just for everyone to know, some of the programs have permissions that will allow us to air their awesome videos. And so we're very excited about that. And we will be also want to just let you all know that Janine Henry and Kristen Sorelli have teamed up and to bring forth a new project, which you've all been calling for years, which is a new website, a new contemporary website. And thank you, Janine and Kristen, so much. We will be calling upon you for support with this, but we have a big vision for it that will include a really solid focus on moving the NMCA as the gold standard of pedagogy for teaching Michael Chekhov into the world. We do feel that as the longest running Chekhov intensive globally, and as a team taught event where you are together with your team, and your team of teachers has been together since the late 80s, and our direct connections to the lineage brings to you an ever-changing, ever-evolving, but continuously refined program to support you in bringing it out to the world. And we want to reach more people now, and especially because much more of the world knows there's a Michael Chekhov versus an Anton. Much of the world knows that there's something pretty phenomenal and special about Michael Chekhov, that very few outside of the NMCA understand that a full and complete pedagogy that is centered in the true legacy and the final images that Michael Chekhov offered for his followers. So we want to bring that forward, and we will have we'll be wanting updated information to be able to disseminate so that people can reach you if you've been working with the program. And Will, is there anything else you want to say, or Janine, anything you want to say about the site?
No, I'm excited. I'm excited. So Kristen and I did the intensive together and became dear friends. And so we're collaborating on this, and we're excited. We really want the website to reflect the excellence that is the program, and Lisa and Will's excellence as teachers. So we're excited.
And we're super thankful that they're willing to work on it. And some of what you said today might be used as testimonials on the website. So that's our hope, is to get more information out to people.
We will. One of the things we're thinking about is getting headshots and bios from the certified teachers. So we'll be reaching out to you for those when we're a little more organized.
Great. Any other final thoughts? Paul, did you want to say something? Baywick?
I just had a question. How many graduates do you have?
Fully certified, probably now close to 40, around 40. Yeah.
Makes me feel very special. To be one of 40, that makes me feel very special.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There are several who have done, who were this close but didn't finish their final. Most of the time I come back to you and say, hey, I need a little more of this or that, and so some got very close, and others launched with really good intentions and then just never got further along. So the people who really stick it out and do the full complement of the material and the requirements are extraordinary. And we do feel that the rigor of the program is specifically so that when you have that certificate, you have earned it, and you have a confidence inside that you stand very solidly, and you can bring the work forward in all these different ways, acting as an actor, as a director, as a teacher, and you can inspire designers with it. So and use it to live a happier, healthier life. So
I just want to say that I got my certification when Jeff got his certification, and I mean, the same at the same intensive, we both presented. And it was really cool that I got to attend some of that intensive before I actually did the presentation part. And actually, so I've done like 2.5, relatively speaking. And actually that half was maybe one of the richest ones, you know, one of the ones that had the greatest effect upon me. After I was already done with the with everything that I was going to present, I went back, and you know, supposedly I knew everything, and it was awesome. It was awesome.
Great, thank you, Brad.
I have one more thing I'd like to say. I'd just like to take this moment to thank both of you for your dedication to bringing Michael Chekhov to the world and for teaching us, because we don't very often probably get this opportunity. So thank you. I love you guys, and thank you so much.
Yeah, we love you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You bring out my curse clown.
Oh,
wait, I have to tell the story.
Now I have to tell the story.
Yeah.
You know, when we have when Will does his improv with professions, and we're supposed to have or we have the personal atmosphere. So it's a personal atmosphere with the party. And so Will writes up his little notes, and in this particular, we had a lot of people, so we split the class in two, so that Will was with one group and I was with the other group, and Joanne was with the group I was watching. And you know, you come in one person at a time for the party, and you're supposed to shift focal points and stuff like that. And Joanne comes in with this clown note, this red spongy thing we've been using, throwing around, stuck on her nose, and something like a mat rolled up under her arm, and is cussing up a storm, and as this clown, and so we go through, you know, what did you think this person was? What is it? Everybody's pretty much on the spot, and we get to Joanne, and even I'm sitting there going, I don't recognize this as one of Will's, you know, normal archetypal characters that he puts in here. And she finally reveals, because we can't quite figure out what it is, and she says, it's a cuss clown. And I said, let me see the piece of paper. And I looked at the piece of paper, and it was the way Will wrote the C and the L and the A of class. Look like so she had read his class as cuss clown.
Awesome.
So it became a thing for the rest of the
It's a new archetype, you know.
Yeah, new archetype, the cuss clown. And didn't live long. It was perfect.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye. Happy Wednesday.
And congratulations